The smell hit me first, stale grease mixed with bleach, a combination that had become as familiar as my own reflection. I pushed through the glass door of Romano's diner, my sneakers squeaking against the checkered linoleum floor. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made even the regulars look half dead. "You're late again, Sophie." I didn't bother responding to Marco, the day manager who enjoyed reminding me of every microscopic failure. My fingers were still numb from the November cold, my coat too thin for the approaching winter. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have recognized this version of myself. The one who couldn't afford a proper winter coat, who counted coins to buy bread, who had become invisible to everyone except people who needed something from me. "Table 6 needs refills," Marco barked, already turning away. I grabbed the coffee pot, its weight familiar in my palm, and made my way through the scattered tables. Sunday morning shift meant the after-church crowd, generous with advice, stingy with tips. My reflection caught in the window as I poured. Hollow-eyed, 26 but looking older, my dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had seen better days. I looked like what I was, abandoned, broke, forgotten. It had been 8 months since Derek left. 8 months since I came home to find our apartment stripped bare, every piece of furniture gone, our joint account emptied, and a note on the counter that read, "You were always too naive for this world. Good luck." He'd taken everything, the savings I'd inherited from my grandmother, the car, even the engagement ring I'd foolishly left on the bathroom counter. The police said it was a civil matter. His new girlfriend posted pictures from Cancun 3 days later. I was so lost in the memory that I didn't notice the shift in atmosphere until the bell above the door chimed. The diner went quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of early morning, but something else. Something that made the hair on my arms stand up beneath my uniform. I glanced up from pouring Mrs. Henderson's decaf, and that's when I saw him. He stood in the doorway like he owned not just the space, but the very air we breathed. Tall, easily over 6 feet, wrapped in a charcoal coat that probably cost more than I'd make in a year. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp jaw, straight nose, and eyes so dark they looked black from where I stood. But it wasn't his appearance that made my breath catch. It was the way everyone else reacted to him. Marco had gone pale. 2 men in suits had entered behind the stranger, flanking him like shadows, their eyes scanning the room with practiced efficiency. One spoke into his sleeve, a gesture I'd only seen in movies. The man in the charcoal coat moved forward, and the crowd parted without him asking. People suddenly very interested in their plates. "Mr. Castellano," Marco stammered, rushing forward. "We weren't expecting... we didn't know..." "Coffee," the man said, his voice low and smooth, with the barest hint of an accent I couldn't place. "And somewhere quiet." His eyes swept the room and landed on me. I froze, coffee pot still suspended over Mrs. Henderson's cup. Those dark eyes held mine for a heartbeat. 2, 3. And I felt pinned, like a butterfly to a board. There was something predatory in his gaze, something that made every instinct scream danger. But I couldn't look away. "The booth in the back," Marco said quickly, gesturing. "Sophie will take care of you." "No." I wanted to refuse, to pass this to Janice or anyone else, but Marco was already shoving me forward, practically pushing the coffee pot into my shaking hands. My sneakers carried me across the floor without my permission, and suddenly I was standing beside the corner booth, the one we usually saved for couples who wanted privacy. He slid into the seat with fluid grace, his guards positioning themselves at nearby tables, their backs to him but their attention clearly outward. I'd never seen anything like it. This wasn't just wealth. This was power, the kind that made people disappear into themselves. "Coffee," he repeated, and I realized I'd been staring. "Right, sorry, My hand trembled as I poured, and I watched in horror as the dark liquid sloshed over the rim, spilling onto the white saucer and dripping onto the table. "Shit," I whispered, grabbing napkins. "I'm so sorry, I'll get you another—" "Leave it!" I looked up. He was watching me with an intensity that made my stomach flip. Up close, I could see details I'd missed. A small scar through his left eyebrow, the precise cut of his stubble, the way his hands rested on the table. Relaxed, but somehow ready. He smelled like expensive cologne and something darker, like smoke and secrets. I said, "Leave it." His tone wasn't harsh, but it left no room for argument. I stepped back, napkins clutched in my fist. "Can I get you anything else?" "Sit." What? "Sit down." He gestured to the seat across from him. "I can't. I'm working. Marco," he called without raising his voice or looking away from me. "The girl has a break now." "Yes, Mr. Castellano." Marco's voice came from across the diner, eager and frightened. "Sophie, take your break." My legs felt like water as I slid into the booth, the vinyl cold beneath my thighs. This was insane. I didn't know this man. I didn't know why he wanted me to sit, why he was looking at me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. "What's your name?" he asked, though something in his eyes suggested he already knew. "Sophie. Sophie Chen." "Sophie Chen," he repeated, and the way he said it made my name sound like something valuable. "Do you know who I am?" I shook my head, though the fear in Marco's eyes and the guards and the way everyone avoided looking at us told me everything I needed to know. This was someone dangerous, someone powerful, someone I should run from. "Dante Castellano," he said, watching my reaction. The name meant nothing to me, but I saw one of his guards smirk, like my ignorance was either charming or foolish. Probably foolish. "I come here sometimes," Dante continued, his fingers tracing the rim of the coffee cup. "Early mornings when I need to think. I've seen you before." That should have comforted me. The idea that this wasn't random, that he'd noticed me in a normal way. Instead, it felt like discovering someone had been watching me through my window. "You're always tired," he observed. "You work 2 shifts most days. You take the bus on Halsted Street. You live alone in that apartment above the laundromat on Morrison." Ice flooded my veins. "How do you—" "And 8 months ago, someone stole everything from you." My hands started shaking. "I don't understand." "Derek Morrison," Dante said, and hearing that name from his lips made me flinch. "Your ex-fiancé. He cleaned out your accounts, took your inheritance, and disappeared. The police did nothing. You had no one to help you." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. "Why do you know this? What do you want from me?" He leaned forward, and the space between us seemed to shrink. "Derek Morrison worked for me once. Small time, running numbers, thinking he was smarter than he was. He stole from me too, $50,000 from a casino operation. Then he vanished." My breath caught. "I don't know where he is. I swear, I haven't heard from him since—" "I know where he is," Dante interrupted smoothly. "I've known for 3 months, Boca Raton, Florida. Living under the name David Marsh, spending money he shouldn't have, hope and horror warred in my chest." "Then why—" "I don't need him anymore, Sophie. I need you." The world tilted. "What?" Dante reached into his coat and pulled out a photograph, sliding it across the table. I stared at it, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. It was Derek, but not alone. He was with a woman. Blonde, beautiful, pregnant. Very pregnant. His girlfriend, Melissa Grant, Dante explained. 8 months pregnant. Due in 2 weeks. The coffee in my stomach turned acid. Derek was having a baby, with her, while I was eating ramen and working double shifts just to keep my electricity on. "What does this have to do with me?" My voice cracked. "Everything," Dante said softly, dangerously. "Because Derek Morrison didn't just steal money from you, Sophie. He stole something irreplaceable from both of us. And I'm going to make him pay, but I need you to help me do it." I should have stood up. Should have walked away. Should have run screaming from this man and his dark eyes, and the danger that clung to him like cologne. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "How?" Dante smiled then, slow and predatory, by becoming mine. Before I could process those words, before I could ask what they meant, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. "We'll continue this conversation somewhere more private," he said, standing. One of his guards immediately moved to his side. "You finish your shift, Sophie. At 6 o'clock there will be a car waiting for you outside. Black SUV. Get in it. And if I don't—" He paused, looking down at me with something that might have been amusement or might have been warning. "Then Derek Morrison keeps everything he stole from both of us, And you keep working yourself to death in this diner for the rest of your life. The choice is yours." He walked away, his guards following, leaving me alone in the booth with a cold cup of coffee and a photograph of the man who'd destroyed me, smiling with the life he'd stolen. Marco appeared at my elbow, his face still pale. "Jesus Christ, Sophie, what did you do?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because I had no idea what I'd just agreed to, or what I was about to become. But at 6 o'clock, when I pushed through the diner doors and saw the black SUV waiting at the curb, its engine purring like a predator, I knew I was going to get in. I'd been invisible for 8 months, forgotten, erased. Maybe it was time to be seen. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and money, the kind of new car scent that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I slid into the back seat, my damp uniform clinging to my skin, and immediately felt out of place. The driver didn't acknowledge me, just pulled smoothly into traffic, the city lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settled over Chicago. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Janice. "Girl, what's going on?" Marco was freaking out. I didn't know how to answer, so I didn't. Instead, I watched the familiar streets blur past. The bodega where I bought discounted bread. The library where I spent my days off because it was warmer than my apartment. The bus stop where I waited every morning in the cold. All of it falling away as we drove north, away from my neighborhood and into areas I only saw in magazines. The buildings grew taller, cleaner. The people on the sidewalks wore coats that actually fit. We passed restaurants with names in French and Italian, their windows glowing warm and golden. I pressed my hand against the glass, watching my breath fog it up, and wondered what the hell I was doing. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to a building that made my stomach drop. It was all glass and steel, stretching into the sky like a monument to excess. A doorman in a uniform nicer than anything I owned opened my door before I could reach for the handle. "Miss Chen," he said, as if he'd been expecting me. "Mr. Castellano is waiting." The driver finally spoke. 32nd floor, penthouse. Of course it was. The elevator was mirrored on all sides, and I spent the ride up trying not to look at myself. The wrinkled uniform, the exhaustion in my eyes, the way my hair had escaped its ponytail in frizzy strands. I looked like exactly what I was. Someone who didn't belong here. The doors opened directly into an apartment that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, the skyline spreading out like scattered diamonds. The space was all clean lines and expensive furniture, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. Everything was in shades of gray and black and cream, sophisticated and cold and perfect. Dante stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at his kingdom. He'd removed his coat, and I could see the precise cut of his suit, the way it molded to his shoulders and tapered at his waist. Even from behind, he radiated power. "You came," he said, without turning around. "You knew I would." I hated how small my voice sounded in this enormous space. "Yes," he turned then, and the city lights behind him made him look like something from a dream or a nightmare. "But I'm still pleased. It shows you're smarter than Derek gave you credit for." The mention of Derek's name made my chest tight. "You said he stole from both of us. You said I could help you make him pay. I want to know how." "Direct. I like that." Dante moved toward a bar cart, pouring amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. "Scotch?" "I don't drink." "You do tonight." He crossed the space between us and pressed the glass into my hand. His fingers brushed mine, warm, calloused in unexpected places, and the brief contact sent electricity up my arm. I took the glass just to have something to hold. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather sofa that probably cost more than my car used to. I perched on the edge, too nervous to relax. Dante sat across from me in an armchair, utterly comfortable in his domain. He took a sip of his scotch, watching me over the rim of the glass with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Derek Morrison came to work for me 3 years ago," he began. "Small jobs at first, collecting debts, running errands. He was ambitious but sloppy. Thought he was smarter than everyone else. Sounds like him," I muttered. He was skimming from the operations, nothing large enough to notice at first, but it added up. $50,000 over 6 months. When I confronted him, he ran, took the money and disappeared. Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. But that's not why I want him back. I waited, my heart pounding. He was sleeping with someone while he worked for me. Someone important. Dante's voice dropped, cold and sharp as a blade. My half-sister, Valentina. The glass nearly slipped from my hand. Your sister? Half-sister. Different mothers, same father. She was 19, stupid, and thought she was in love. His knuckles whitened around his glass. She didn't know he was engaged to you. Didn't know he was stealing. When I found out, I was going to kill him, slowly. I believed him. The way he said it, casual, matter of fact, left no doubt. But before I could find him, Valentina discovered she was pregnant. By then, Derek had already run. Left her crying in my office, begging me not to hurt him because she was carrying his child. Dante's laugh was bitter. My father made me promise not to touch Derek until after the baby was born. Family first, always. My mind raced, trying to piece it together. But the photo you showed me, that woman with Derek, she was pregnant. Melissa Grant. A fake name, fake relationship. Derek's cover. Dante leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But Valentina is real. She's in Florida too, living in a house I bought her, waiting to give birth to that bastard's child. And Derek has no idea she's there, no idea I've been watching him this whole time, waiting for the right moment. What moment? The moment when I could take everything from him. The way he took everything from you. Dante's eyes locked on mine. That's where you come in, Sophie. I forced myself to take a sip of the scotch. It burned going down, but the warmth helped steady my nerves. I still don't understand. Derek thinks he's safe. He thinks he got away with it, stealing from you, stealing from me, leaving Valentina pregnant and alone. He's living his life with that girlfriend, spending money, playing house. Dante set his glass down with deliberate precision. I want him to feel what you felt, what Valentina felt. I want him destroyed, humiliated, broken. And then I want him to know it was all because of you. How? I whispered. Dante stood and crossed to me, and suddenly he was close, so close I could smell his cologne again, could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tilted my chin up with his fingers. You're going to become my fiancé. The word hung in the air between us, impossible and terrifying. We'll make it public, he continued, his thumb brushing my jawline in a touch that felt possessive. Pictures, events, the works. I'll dress you in clothes that cost more than Derek ever made. I'll put diamonds on your fingers that will make his theft look like pocket change. You'll be seen on my arm at restaurants, galas, everywhere that matters. Why would that hurt him? My voice came out breathless, because Derek will see that the nobody he threw away became someone he could never touch. Someone protected by the most dangerous man in Chicago, someone who has everything he dreamed of and more. Dante's grip on my chin tightened just slightly. And when he's consumed with jealousy and rage, when he can't stand it anymore, he'll do something stupid. He'll try to contact you, or he'll try to come back. And when he does, I'll be waiting. And then what? Then I take everything. His money, his freedom, his future, and he'll know it was you who brought him down. I should have been horrified. Should have run from this man and his dark plans and the danger that radiated from him like heat. But all I could think about was Derek's note. You were always too naive for this world, and the empty apartment, and the 8 months of struggling just to survive. What do I get out of this? I asked. Dante smiled, and it was like watching a wolf bare its teeth. Everything he stole from you, I'll get your money back. Every penny. Plus interest. Plus compensation for what you've suffered. Money isn't everything. No, he agreed. You also get revenge. You get to watch him lose everything like you did. You get justice. His hand slid from my chin to cup my cheek. And you get my protection. No one will ever hurt you again, Sophie. No one will ever make you feel small or invisible or worthless. I'll make sure of that. The promise in his voice made something in my chest crack open. When was the last time someone had wanted to protect me? When had I last mattered to anyone? How long would this arrangement last? I managed to ask. As long as it takes. A few months, maybe. Until Derek makes his move. Dante's thumb traced my cheekbone. You'll live here. I have plenty of space. You'll quit the diner, quit your second job. Your only job will be being seen with me and playing the part. And at night? The question came out barely above a whisper. His eyes darkened. Separate bedrooms. This is business, Sophie, unless you want it to be something else. The suggestion hung between us, dangerous and electric. I pulled away, standing up on shaky legs, needing distance from him and the way he made my skin feel too tight. I need to think about it. No, you don't. Dante stood as well, towering over me. You made your decision when you got in the car. You made it when you didn't run from the diner. You made it when you looked at that photo and felt what I knew you'd feel. Anger, betrayal, hunger for revenge. He was right. God help me. He was right. I need to hear you say it, though, he continued, stepping closer. I need to hear you choose this. Choose me. This is insane, I breathed. Yes, you're dangerous. Very. I don't even know you. You will. He reached out and took my hand, his fingers wrapping around mine completely. Say yes, Sophie. Let me give you back everything that was taken from you. Let me make you untouchable. I looked down at our joined hands. His so much larger, scarred across the knuckles, marked by a life I couldn't imagine. Then I looked up at his face, at those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through me. Derek had left me with nothing, had made me believe I was nothing. This man, this dangerous, powerful, terrifying man, was offering me everything. Yes, I whispered. Dante's smile was triumphant and possessive, and before I could process what was happening, he lifted my hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to my knuckles. The gesture was old-fashioned, courtly, and somehow more intimate than anything I'd experienced. Good, he murmured against my skin. Tomorrow we start. Tonight you rest. I'll have someone bring your things from your apartment. I should go get them myself. No. The word was absolute. You don't go back there. That part of your life is over, Sophie. As of right now, you're under my protection. That means you don't go anywhere without security. You don't make decisions without consulting me. You don't take risks. The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like being wrapped in armor. Marco will be looking for me, I said. The diner will receive a generous payment for your immediate resignation. Don't worry about Marco or anyone else from before. Your only concern now is this. He gestured between us. Us. Making this believable. Making Derek suffer. A knock at the door interrupted us. One of Dante's guards entered, the same one from the diner. Everything's arranged, boss. The room's ready. Thank you, Luca. Dante turned back to me. He'll show you to your room. There are clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. Tomorrow morning we'll go shopping for more. Everything you need. I followed Luca down a hallway lined with more expensive art, my mind spinning. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment had been. A king-sized bed with white linens, another wall of windows overlooking the city, a bathroom visible through an open door that looked like it belonged in a spa. Mr. Castellano's room is at the end of the hall, Luca said. You need anything? There's a phone by the bed. Just dial 1. And then he left me alone in luxury I'd never imagined, and I sank onto the bed, my hands shaking. What had I just agreed to? My phone buzzed again. Janice, still waiting for an answer. But there were also 3 missed calls from the landlord and a text from the electric company about my overdue bill. I looked around at the room, at the life I'd just stepped into, and made my choice all over again. I turned off my phone. The old Sophie Chen, the one who'd been abandoned and broken, could stay in that cold apartment above the laundromat. This Sophie, Dante Castellano's fiancée, was someone else entirely. Someone Derek Morrison was going to regret ever meeting. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover, and the smell of coffee brewing somewhere in the penthouse. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. The bed was too soft, the sheets too smooth, the silence too complete. Then it all came rushing back. Dante, the deal, the revenge I'd agreed to help orchestrate. My phone sat on the nightstand where I'd left it, still turned off. I didn't reach for it. Instead, I padded barefoot across plush carpet to the bathroom and stopped in the doorway, speechless. Marble countertops, a shower that could fit 4 people, a bathtub that looked more like a small pool. Bottles lined the counter, expensive brands I'd only seen in magazines. Skincare, hair care, perfume, all unopened, all waiting. I caught my reflection in the mirror. My uniform from yesterday lay crumpled on the floor where I'd shed it. I stood in an oversized t-shirt I'd found in the closet drawer, my hair a mess, dark circles still prominent under my eyes despite sleeping better than I had in months. I didn't look like someone who belonged in Dante Castellano's world, but that was going to change. After a shower that felt like heaven, hot water that didn't sputter out after 5 minutes, water pressure that actually worked, I wrapped myself in a robe so soft it felt like sin and ventured out of the bedroom. The penthouse looked different in daylight, less intimidating, but somehow more real. I followed the smell of coffee to a kitchen that was all steel and granite, where Dante sat at an island reading a tablet, a cup of espresso at his elbow. He looked up as I entered, and I became acutely aware that I was wearing nothing but a robe. "Good morning," he said, his eyes traveling over me in a way that made heat creep up my neck. "Coffee?" "Please." He stood and moved to an espresso machine that looked like it required an engineering degree to operate. I watched his hands, confident, precise, as he prepared my cup. He was dressed more casually than yesterday. Black slacks, a charcoal sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. No jacket, no guards hovering. Just him. "How did you sleep?" he asked, sliding the cup across the counter to me. "Better than I have in months." The admission felt dangerous. "Good." He returned to his seat, studying me over his tablet. "We have a busy day. First, shopping. You need an entire wardrobe, everything from everyday clothes to gowns for events. Then this afternoon, we're having engagement photos taken." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Already?" "The sooner we make this public, the sooner Derek hears about it. I want the news to reach him while he's still comfortable, still thinking he's safe." Dante's expression hardened. "I want him to see you in newspapers, on social media, everywhere he looks. I want you to haunt him." The vindictive part of me, the part that had grown in the 8 months since Derek left, thrilled at the idea. But another part, smaller and more frightened, whispered warnings. "What if he doesn't care?" I asked quietly. "What if seeing me with you doesn't affect him at all?" Dante set down his tablet and gave me his full attention. "He'll care. Men like Derek, weak, insecure men, they need to feel superior. He left you believing you were beneath him, that you'd never recover. Seeing you not just recovered but thriving, protected by someone who makes him look like an insect?" He smiled coldly. "It will eat him alive. You sound certain." "I am. I've spent my life reading people, Sophie. It's how I've survived." He stood and came around the island, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "Derek Morrison is a small man who thought he could play in a big man's world. He stole from you because it made him feel powerful. He stole from me because he thought he was clever. And he abandoned my sister because he's a coward." The muscle in his jaw ticked. "When he sees what you've become, what I've made you, it will destroy him. And then, I'll finish the job." The intensity in his voice, the barely controlled rage lurking beneath his calm exterior, it should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel protected. Someone was finally on my side. "Okay," I said. "When do we start?" His smile was approving, possessive. "Right now. Luca's bringing the car around. And Sophie?" He reached out and tucked a damp strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my skin. "Get used to luxury. Get used to being looked at, being noticed. Because after today, you'll never be invisible again." 3 hours later, I stood in front of a 3-way mirror in a boutique so exclusive it didn't have a sign on the door, wearing a dress that cost more than I used to make in 2 months. "Perfect," the saleswoman, Margot, cooed, adjusting the fabric at my waist. "Mr. Castellano has exquisite taste." Dante sat in a leather armchair like a king on his throne, watching me with those dark, unreadable eyes. He'd barely spoken since we arrived, just gestured at items he wanted me to try and gave curt nods or shakes of his head. The growing pile of approved garments was staggering. Dresses, slacks, blouses, coats, shoes, lingerie that made me blush. "Turn around," he said now. I did slowly, watching myself in the mirror. The dress was deep emerald green, fitted to my body in ways that made me look like someone else. Someone sophisticated, someone who belonged on Dante Castellano's arm. "We'll take it," Dante said. "And the navy one, and the black cocktail dress. Excellent choices, Mr. Castellano." As Margot rushed off to process the purchases, Dante stood and approached me. In the mirror, I could see us together. Him dark and dangerous behind me wide-eyed and transformed in front of him. He placed his hands on my shoulders, and the weight of them felt like both a promise and a claim. "Do you see it?" he asked quietly. "See what?" "What I see. What everyone will see." His hands slid down my arms, leaving trails of heat, power, beauty, someone untouchable. I met his eyes in the mirror. "I'm not untouchable. I'm just wearing expensive clothes." "No." His voice was firm. "You're under my protection now. That makes you untouchable. Anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through me first, and no one is that stupid." The certainty in his voice made something in my chest tighten. When was the last time someone had protected me? My parents had died when I was 19, and I'd been on my own ever since. Derek had promised to take care of me, but his version of care was control and eventually abandonment. This, Dante's fierce, possessive protection, felt different. Dangerous, yes, but solid. Real. "What if I don't want to be untouchable?" I asked softly. "What if I just want to be normal?" His hands tightened on my arms. "Normal got you abandoned in an empty apartment with nothing. Normal got you working yourself to exhaustion for scraps. Normal made you invisible." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "I'm offering you extraordinary, Sophie. Take it." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He released me and stepped back, all business again as he answered. "What is it?" I watched his expression darken as he listened. "When?" A pause. "No, keep watching. Don't approach. I'll handle it." He ended the call and looked at me. "We need to go." "What's wrong?" "Derek just booked a flight to Chicago. He'll be here in 3 days." My blood went cold. "How do you know?" "Because I have people watching his every move, monitoring his accounts, tracking his communications. I know everything he does, Sophie." Dante's smile was sharp as a blade. "And he just took the bait." "What bait? We haven't even—" "I had someone leak a photo from this morning. You and me getting into the car together. It was posted on a gossip blog an hour ago with speculation about Chicago's most eligible bachelor and his mysterious new companion." He stepped closer, cupping my face in his hands. "He saw it, and now he's coming." Fear and excitement warred in my stomach. "But I'm not ready. We haven't even—" "You're ready." Dante's thumb stroked my cheeks. "And tonight, we make it official. I'm taking you to Marcello's, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. We'll be seen, photographed. And tomorrow, the announcement of our engagement will be in every paper and on every social media feed." "Tomorrow?" My voice came out as a squeak. "Tomorrow, before Derek lands. I want him to arrive knowing you're mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have alarmed me. Instead, it sent shivers down my spine. "Can you do this, Sophie? Can you play the part of a woman desperately in love with me?" I looked at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd swept into my life and offered me everything Derek had taken. This man who looked at me like I mattered, like I was valuable, like I was worth protecting. "Yes," I whispered. "Good." He released me and pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "Margot will finish here. Luca will take you back to the penthouse. I have some business to attend to, but I'll pick you up at 8. Wear the black dress. Dante." He looked up, and the intensity in his gaze stole my breath. "What happens when this is over?" I asked. "When Derek is caught and punished and your sister has her baby, what happens to me?" For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something that might have been uncertainty, or might have been desire. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual controlled expression. "We'll discuss that when the time comes," he said. For now, focus on tonight. Focus on being mine." Then he was gone, striding out of the boutique with the confidence of a man who owned the world. I stood alone in the emerald dress, surrounded by luxury, and wondered if I'd made a deal with the devil. That evening, I stood in front of the mirror in my bedroom, barely recognizing myself. The black dress hugged every curve, the neckline just low enough to be daring without being vulgar. My hair had been professionally styled, loose waves that cascaded over my shoulders, makeup that made my eyes look huge and mysterious, heels that added 3 inches to my height, but still left me shorter than Dante. I looked like someone from a movie, someone important, someone who definitely didn't work double shifts at a diner. A knock at my door made me jump. "Come in." Dante entered, and the sight of him in a tailored tuxedo made my mouth go dry. He looked like sin and power wrapped in expensive fabric, his dark eyes sweeping over me with an intensity that made my skin burn. "You're beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you. You look—" I struggled for words. "Very handsome." He crossed the room and pulled a small box from his pocket. "One more thing." The ring inside made my heart stop. It was stunning. A large diamond surrounded by smaller stones set in platinum. The kind of ring that made statements. The kind of ring that declared ownership. "Give me your hand," Dante said. I extended my left hand, trembling slightly. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly, catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. "How did you know my size?" I asked. "I know everything about you, Sophie." He lifted my hand to his lips, kissing just above the ring. "Your size, your coffee order. The fact that you're afraid of heights but pretend you're not. The fact that you haven't cried once since Derek left, because you refused to give him that power." Tears burned behind my eyes at the accuracy of his observations. "But you can cry with me," he continued softly. "You can be vulnerable with me. Because I won't use it against you. I'll protect you instead." A tear escaped, rolling down my cheek. Dante caught it with his thumb, his touch impossibly gentle for such a dangerous man. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me yet." He released my hand and offered his arm. "Tonight is just the beginning. Are you ready?" I looked at the ring on my finger, feeling its weight. Looked at Dante, standing there in his tuxedo, offering me revenge and protection, and a life I'd never dreamed possible. "Yes," I said, taking his arm. "I'm ready." As we walked out of the penthouse together, the flash of cameras already waiting downstairs, I realized something terrifying. This might have started as a business arrangement, as revenge against Derek, but the way Dante looked at me, the way he touched me, the way he said my name, this was becoming something else entirely. And I wasn't sure if that thrilled me or terrified me, maybe both. Marcello's was everything I'd imagined exclusive restaurants to be, and more. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over white tablecloths, the murmur of conversation mixing with soft classical music. Every face I glimpsed looked wealthy, important, the kind of people who appeared in society pages, and they were all staring at us. Dante's hand rested on the small of my back as we were led to a private corner table, the weight of it both comforting and claiming. I could feel eyes following us, hear the whispers starting. The maitre d' pulled out my chair with a flourish, treating me like royalty simply because I was with Dante. "Mr. Castellano, what a pleasure. Your usual table, of course." "Thank you, Vincent." Dante settled across from me, completely at ease despite the attention. "We'll have the tasting menu, and champagne, the Cristal." "Excellent choice, sir." As Vincent hurried away, I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. "Everyone's watching us. Good. That's the point." Dante's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. "By tomorrow morning, photos of us will be everywhere. Derek will see them before he even boards his plane." My stomach fluttered. Whether from nerves or anticipation, I couldn't tell. What do I do? How do I act? Like a woman in love, he reached across the table and took my hand, his thumb stroking the ring he'd placed there. "Look at me like I'm the only person in the room. Smile when I talk. Let me touch you. Make everyone believe that you're mine, and that you've never been happier about anything." The words should have felt like instructions for a performance, but when his fingers intertwined with mine, when his dark eyes held mine with that intensity that made my breath catch. It didn't feel like acting at all. "Tell me something," he said, his voice lower now, intimate. "What did you want to be? Before Derek, before the diner, when you still had dreams?" The question caught me off guard. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I want to know you, not just the broken version Derek left behind, the real you." I hesitated, looking down at our joined hands. I wanted to be a photographer, not weddings or portraits, documentary photography, telling stories through images, showing people things they'd never see otherwise. I laughed bitterly. Stupid, right? I even had a scholarship to art school. But then my parents died, and I had to work, and Derek said it was impractical, that I needed to focus on real jobs, real money. It's not stupid. Dante's grip tightened on my hand. Derek was an idiot. What else? What else what? What else did he take from you? Besides money and your apartment and your dreams? The champagne arrived then, giving me a moment to compose myself. The waiter poured with ceremony, the bubbles catching the light like liquid gold. When we were alone again, I took a sip, letting the expensive wine settle my nerves. "He took my confidence," I said quietly. "He made me believe I was lucky to have him. That no one else would want me. That I was too naive, too trusting, too small for the world." I met Dante's eyes. He made me disappear even before he left. Something dark and dangerous flashed across Dante's face. He was wrong. About all of it. Was he? I pulled my hand back, suddenly angry. At Derek, at myself, at the whole situation. "Look at me, Dante. A week ago I was serving coffee and living in a studio with heat that barely worked. Now I'm wearing a dress that costs more than my monthly rent, sitting in a restaurant I couldn't afford to even walk past, pretending to be engaged to a man I barely know who runs what? The Mafia? Criminal organizations? I don't even know exactly what you do." My voice had risen slightly, and I forced myself to lower it, aware of the interested glances from nearby tables. So maybe Derek was right. Maybe I am too naive, because I agreed to this insane plan without even asking what it might cost me. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those unreadable dark eyes. Then he stood, came around the table, and offered his hand. "Come with me." "What?" "Where? Trust me." I let him pull me to my feet, and he led me through the restaurant to a private balcony overlooking the city. The November air was cold, but he shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over my shoulders before I could protest. It smelled like him, cologne and smoke and something darker. "You want to know what I do?" he asked, leaning against the railing. "I run businesses, legitimate ones, restaurants, real estate, construction. But I also handle things that exist in gray areas, protection for people who can't go to the police, solutions to problems the law won't touch. Justice when the system fails." He turned to face me fully. "My father built an empire on blood and fear. When he died, I inherited it, along with his enemies, his debts, his sins. I've spent 10 years trying to turn it into something different, something that doesn't just destroy. And Derek, what you're doing to him, is that justice or revenge?" "Both." Dante stepped closer. "He stole from you. He abandoned my sister pregnant and alone. He thought he could take from people who mattered to me and walk away clean. I'm proving him wrong. By using me. By helping you. There's a difference." His hands came up to cut my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Yes, I need you for this plan. Yes, this arrangement benefits me. But don't pretend you're not getting something out of it too, Sophie. Don't pretend you don't want to see him suffer." He was right, and I hated that he was right. "What happens when he makes his move?" I asked. "When he contacts me or tries to come back? What will you do to him? What do you want me to do?" The question hung between us, heavy with implication. Dante was giving me power, the power to determine Derek's fate. It should have scared me. Instead, it felt like reclaiming something I'd lost. "I want him to feel what I felt," I said slowly. "That moment when everything's taken away and you realize you're alone, helpless. That no one's coming to save you." Dante smiled, dark and approving. "Then that's exactly what he'll get, I promise you, Sophie. By the time I'm done with Derek Morrison, he'll wish he'd never heard your name." He leaned closer, and suddenly the space between us felt charged, electric. His breath was warm against my lips, his eyes searching mine for permission or denial. "We should go back inside," I whispered, but I didn't move. "We should," he agreed. But he didn't move either. For a moment, we stood frozen in that almost kiss, the city lights twinkling below us, the cold air making me shiver despite his jacket around my shoulders. Then Dante stepped back, his jaw tight with restraint. "You're right. People are watching." He offered his arm again. "We should give them something to photograph." We returned to the table, and the rest of the dinner passed in a blur of exquisite food I barely tasted and conversation that felt more real than it should have. Dante asked about my childhood, my parents, the life I'd had before everything fell apart. And he shared pieces of himself, too. His mother who'd died when he was young, the pressure of inheriting his father's legacy, the sister he was trying to protect. By the time we left the restaurant, I'd almost forgotten it was supposed to be an act. The cameras were waiting outside, paparazzi who seemed to materialize from nowhere, their flashes blinding. Dante pulled me close, his arm around my waist, and I buried my face against his chest, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. "It's all right," he murmured against my hair. "I've got you." And somehow I believed him. The photos were everywhere by morning. I scrolled through my phone, which I'd finally turned back on, seeing my own face staring back at me from dozens of gossip sites and social media posts. Chicago's most eligible bachelor off the market, mystery woman snags Dante Castellano, new romance for real estate mogul. In every photo, I looked happy, radiant even. Dante looked possessive, his arm always around me, his eyes always on me like I was the only thing that mattered. We looked like a couple in love. Good, aren't they? I looked up to find Dante in the doorway of my bedroom, already dressed for the day in slacks and a crisp white shirt. He held a tablet, presumably showing the same articles I was reading. "The PR team outdid themselves," he continued, coming to sit beside me on the bed. "The engagement announcement goes live in an hour. I wanted you to see it first." He handed me the tablet, and I read the carefully crafted statement announcing our engagement, complete with a quote from Dante about finding unexpected love and being excited for our future together. "It sounds so real," I said softly. "That's the idea." He took the tablet back, setting it aside. "Derek's plane lands in 4 hours. By the time he touches down, he'll have seen all of this. His hotel is 3 blocks from here. I've made sure of that. He'll be close, watching, stewing in jealousy. How do you know he'll even care enough to—" My phone buzzed, cutting me off. A number I didn't recognize, but somehow I knew exactly who it was before I even looked. The text message made my blood run cold. "What the fuck, Sophie? Call me. Now." "Derek." Dante read it over my shoulder, and his smile was terrifying in its satisfaction. "Right on schedule," he murmured. "Don't respond yet. Make him wait. Make him wonder. Make him desperate." Another text came through. "This is bullshit. You can't just move on like I meant nothing. Like we meant nothing." Then another. "Who the hell is this guy? What are you doing?" And another. "I know you, Sophie. This isn't you. He's using you. Please, we need to talk." I stared at the messages, feeling something crack open inside my chest. 8 months of silence. And now that I was with someone else, now that I looked happy, suddenly Derek wanted to talk. Suddenly I mattered. "He doesn't get to do this," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "He doesn't get to abandon me and then act betrayed when I move on. No, he doesn't." Dante took my phone gently from my hands and set it aside. "But he will keep trying. And when he does, when he gets desperate enough, he'll make a mistake. That's what we're waiting for. What if he doesn't? What if he just goes back to Florida and—" "He won't." Dante's certainty was absolute. "I know men like Derek, weak, insecure men who need to feel powerful. Seeing you with me is destroying him. He'll escalate. And when he does, we'll be ready." The phone buzzed again, and again. Derek's messages coming faster now, more desperate, angrier. "You think you're better than me now? You think some rich asshole makes you special? I gave you everything and you threw it away for what? Money? Status?" "You're making a mistake, Sophie. This guy is dangerous. I'm trying to protect you." That last message made me laugh. A bitter, broken sound. Protect me. He's trying to protect me. After everything he did, Dante pulled me against his chest, his arms coming around me in a hold that felt like safety. He's scared. He should be. Because I'm going to destroy him, Sophie. For you, for Valentina, for everyone he's ever hurt. I let myself sink into his embrace. Let myself believe, just for a moment, that this was real. That Dante's protection meant something beyond our arrangement, that I wasn't just a pawn in his game of revenge. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to examine too closely, I knew the truth. I was falling for my fake fiancé. And that was far more dangerous than anything Derek could do to me. Block 5. 3 days after Derek landed in Chicago, everything exploded. It started with flowers. A dozen red roses delivered to the penthouse with a card that read, "I'm sorry, please, let me explain. I still love you." Mondi Dante had them thrown away before I could even touch them. Then came the letters, slipped under restaurant doors where we ate, handed to Luca by nervous-looking messengers. Derek's handwriting, increasingly frantic, begging for a chance to talk, to explain, insisting that he'd made a mistake leaving me. "He's spiraling," Dante said with satisfaction, reading one of the letters over breakfast. "Perfect." But I felt something twisting in my stomach. Not sympathy for Derek exactly, but a growing unease about what we'd set in motion. The messages were getting darker, more possessive. "You belong with me, not him. I know you still love me. Don't make me do something we'll both regret." "He's threatening me," I said, showing Dante the latest text. His expression went cold and dangerous. "He's threatening himself. Luca, I want extra security on Sophie. No one gets within 50 feet of her without clearance." "Already done, boss." I'd gotten used to the shadows, the men in dark suits who followed at a discreet distance whenever I left the penthouse. But now their presence felt heavier, more ominous. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. Derek was becoming unstable, and I was in the crosshairs. That evening, Dante had a business dinner he couldn't miss. "Come with me," he said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "I thought you had to discuss business things. You're my fiancé. You belong at my side." He turned to face me, his expression serious. "Besides, I don't want you here alone, not with Derek acting erratic." So I found myself in another exclusive restaurant, this one even more intimidating than Marcello's. Private dining room, men in expensive suits conducting conversations in low voices. I sat beside Dante, his hand occasionally resting on my thigh beneath the table, a possessive touch that sent heat through my body, despite the dangerous atmosphere. The meeting was about construction contracts and city permits, things I barely understood, but I watched Dante work, the way he commanded respect with just a look, the way grown men deferred to him, the casual power in every word he spoke. This was his world, and somehow, impossibly, I'd become part of it. We were leaving through the back entrance, Luca and 2 other guards flanking us, when Derek appeared. He looked terrible, unshaven, wild-eyed, his clothes rumpled, nothing like the polished man who'd left me 8 months ago. He stumbled forward from between parked cars, and Luca immediately stepped between us, hand going to his jacket. "Sophie, please, I just want to talk." My heart hammered against my ribs. Dante's arm came around my waist, pulling me behind him, his body a shield between Derek and me. "You need to leave," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. "Now." "Fuck you!" Derek's face twisted with rage. "Sophie, he's using you. Can't you see that? He's a criminal, a monster. He's going to hurt you." "The only person who hurt her was you." Dante's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "You stole from her, abandoned her, left her with nothing. And now you have the audacity to claim you're protecting her? I made a mistake." Derek's eyes locked on mine, pleading. "Sophie, baby, please. We can fix this. Come back to me. Leave this bastard and come back where you belong." Something inside me snapped. I stepped around Dante, ignoring his attempt to hold me back, and walked right up to Derek. close enough to see the desperation in his bloodshot eyes, to smell the alcohol on his breath. "I don't belong to you," I said clearly. "I never did. You made sure of that when you took everything from me and left me to survive on my own. Sophie." "No. You don't get to talk now. You had 8 months to contact me, to apologize, to give back what you stole, but you didn't. You were too busy spending my inheritance with your girlfriend in Florida." I smiled, and it felt sharp as broken glass. "Oh yes, I know about Melissa, about the baby, about all of it." Derek's face went white. "How?" "Because, unlike you, Derek, I'm not alone anymore. I have someone who actually protects me, someone who values me, someone who would never leave me with nothing." I held up my left hand, letting the diamond catch the light, "and in 3 months, I'm going to marry him." "You're lying." But Derek's voice shook. "This is all fake. Some kind of revenge plot. You're not actually—" "Every word she said is true," Dante interrupted, coming to stand beside me. His arm slid around my waist, claiming, "Sophie is mine now, under my protection, which means if you come near her again, if you contact her, if you so much as think about her, I'll make you disappear. Do you understand me, Derek?" The threat in Dante's voice was unmistakable. Derek stumbled backward, and I saw real fear in his eyes now, the fear of a small man who'd finally realized he was playing in a league far above him. "You can't," Derek started, but Luca stepped forward. "Mr. Castellano asked if you understand." "Yes," Derek whispered. "Yes, I understand." "Good." Dante's arm tightened around me. "Now, about the money you stole, from Sophie, from my operations, from my family. I want all of it back, every penny. You have 48 hours. Derek's laugh was hysterical. "I don't have it. I spent it." "Then you'd better find a way to get it." Dante's smile was terrifying. "Because if you don't, I'll take it out of you in other ways. Starting with that nice girlfriend of yours in Boca Raton. Melissa, wasn't it?" All the color drained from Derek's face. "You leave her alone. She has nothing to do with this. Neither did Sophie. Neither did Valentina. But that didn't stop you, did it?" Dante pulled out his phone and showed Derek something that made him stagger. "That's your daughter, by the way. Valentina gave birth 2 days ago. Beautiful little girl. She has your eyes." I gasped. Dante hadn't told me Valentina had given birth. Derek stared at the phone, something broken and desperate in his expression. "I have a daughter? You have 2 children you've abandoned," Dante corrected coldly. "Valentina's baby, and the one Melissa is carrying. You're quite the family man, Derek. Such a shame you're also a thief and a coward. I want to see her. My daughter. Please." "You gave up that right when you stole from my family and ran." Dante pocketed his phone. 48 hours, Derek. The money, or I go to the authorities with evidence of your embezzlement, fraud, and theft. I have documentation of everything, including the accounts you thought you'd hidden. You'll spend the next decade in prison, and Melissa will raise your child alone while you rot." "You bastard." 48 hours. Dante turned, keeping me tucked against his side. "Luca, make sure Mr. Morrison finds his way out. And if he comes near Sophie again, break his legs." "With pleasure, boss." Dante led me to the car, and I was shaking so hard I could barely walk. Once we were inside, the tinted windows hiding us from the world, I finally let myself fall apart. "He has a daughter," I whispered. "With your sister, and another baby coming with Melissa. He just abandons them. How can someone do that? Because he's weak. Because he only thinks of himself." Dante pulled me onto his lap, cradling me against his chest. "But he won't hurt anyone else. I promise you that. What happens in 48 hours when he can't pay? He'll try to run, and when he does, I'll have the evidence delivered to the FBI. He'll be arrested before he makes it to the airport." Dante's hand stroked my hair, soothing. "It's almost over, Sophie. Soon Derek will be in prison. You'll have your money back, and all of this will be finished." Finished. The word should have brought relief. Instead, it felt like a door closing. "And us?" I asked quietly. "What happens to us when this is over?" Dante was silent for a long moment, his hand stilled in my hair, and I could feel the tension in his body. Sophie, don't. I pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down my face. Don't tell me this was just business. Don't tell me the past 2 weeks meant nothing. Because I feel it, Dante. The way you look at me, the way you touch me, the way you say my name. This isn't fake anymore, at least not for me. His jaw clenched. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. I'm saying I'm falling for you. I'm saying that somewhere between the revenge plot and the fake engagement and all of this insanity, I started to care about you. Really care. I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. Tell me I'm alone in this. Tell me you don't feel it too. Sophie, tell me. I can't. The words burst from him raw and honest. I can't tell you that because it would be a lie. Because every time I touch you, I want more. Every time I see you in another man's path, I want to destroy them. Every time you smile at me, I want to keep you locked in my penthouse where nothing can hurt you and no one can take you away. His hands came up to frame my face, his thumbs wiping away my tears. You were supposed to be a tool, Sophie. A means to an end. A way to hurt Derek and protect Valentina. But you became something else. You became mine. Really mine. And that terrifies me because everyone I've ever cared about has been used against me or taken away. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. You don't know that. You don't know what my life is really like. The dangers, the enemies, the constant threat. I kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't strategic. I just leaned forward and pressed my lips to his, silencing his protests with action instead of words. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then his arms crushed me against him and he kissed me back with a desperation that matched my own. It was nothing like the chaste touches we'd shared for cameras. This was raw, hungry, real. His hands tangled in my hair, his mouth claiming mine like he was drowning, and I was air. I melted into him, 8 months of loneliness and pain and fear dissolving in the heat between us. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against mine. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. Probably. I'm dangerous. My world is dangerous. I know. You deserve better than this, better than me. That's not your decision to make. I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. I'm not some helpless victim who needs to be protected from her own choices, Dante. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. His laugh was shaky, almost disbelieving. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. I smiled through my tears. We're good together, but I'm also right, real together. And when this thing with Derek is over, I don't want it to end. I want to see where this goes. Dante searched my face, looking for doubt or fear or hesitation. Whatever he saw there made something in his expression soften, made the hard edges of him blur into something almost vulnerable. Okay, he said finally. Okay, we'll try. But Sophie... His grip tightened. If being with me puts you in danger, if my enemies even look at you wrong, I'm sending you somewhere safe. No arguments. Fine. As long as you understand that I'm not running just because things get difficult. Stubborn woman. You like stubborn. I like you. He kissed me again, softer this time. God help me. I really like you. 48 hours later, Derek didn't run. Instead, he did something far more stupid. He tried to break into the penthouse. I was in the kitchen making coffee when the alarms went off, security flooding the apartment. Dante pushed me into a panic room I hadn't even known existed, sealing me inside while he dealt with the threat. Through security monitors, I watched Derek being wrestled to the ground by Luca and 2 other guards. He was screaming, crying, begging for a chance to talk to me. In his hand was a gun, unloaded it turned out, but enough to guarantee serious charges. The police came. So did the FBI. Apparently, Dante had already contacted them with his evidence of Derek's embezzlement and fraud. I watched through the monitors as Derek was led away in handcuffs, still screaming my name. It should have felt like victory. Instead, I just felt tired. Dante found me in the panic room an hour later, wrapped in a blanket despite the warmth. He sat beside me, pulling me into his arms without a word. It's over. he said quietly. Derek will be in prison for at least 10 years. The money he stole, from you, from me, from Valentina, it's all been recovered. You're safe now. And Valentina? The baby? I've set up a trust fund. She'll never have to worry about money, and I'll make sure Derek has no parental rights. She and her daughter will be protected. He pressed a kiss to my temple. You all will be. I turned in his arms to face him. What now? Now? Dante smiled, and it was genuine, warm, so different from the cold calculation I'd first seen. Now we figure out what this is, you and me. No more fake engagement, no more revenge plots, just us. Just us, I repeated, testing the words. They felt right. Terrifyingly right. I should probably propose properly, Dante said, pulling the ring from my finger. Without the lies and the manipulation and the Mafia boss drama. Dante, he slid from the couch to kneel before me, the gesture so unexpected and vulnerable that it stole my breath. Sophie Chen, you walked into my life at my lowest point. When I was consumed by revenge and anger and hate, you reminded me what it's like to protect someone not out of duty, but out of genuine care. You made me want to be better, to build something real instead of just destroying my enemies. His voice was rough with emotion. I know this started as a lie. I know I manipulated you and used you for my own purposes. But somewhere along the way, it became the truest thing in my life. So I'm asking you now, with no tricks, no games, no ulterior motives, will you actually marry me? Will you take a chance on a dangerous man who's desperately in love with you? Tears streamed down my face, but this time they were happy tears, overwhelmed tears. Tears of something that felt like coming home after being lost for so long. Yes, I whispered. Yes, you terrifying, possessive, wonderful man. I'll marry you. He slipped the ring back on my finger. The same ring, but now it meant something completely different. Then he stood and pulled me into a kiss that promised forever, protection, and a love I'd thought I'd never find. When we finally pulled apart, both smiling like idiots, Dante rested his forehead against mine. You know this won't be easy, he warned. My life, my world, it's complicated and dangerous and… I know. I cut him off with another kiss. But I'm not the broken girl Derek left behind anymore. I'm stronger now. Strong enough to stand beside you. Strong enough to build a life with you. My fierce Sophie, he murmured against my lips. What did I do to deserve you? You saw me, I said simply. When everyone else looked through me, you saw me. You made me matter. You always mattered. I just helped you remember that. 6 months later, I stood in a private garden wearing a wedding dress that made me feel like a princess, surrounded by flowers and soft music, and people who genuinely cared about me. Janice from the diner was there, crying happy tears. Valentina stood as one of my bridesmaids, her baby daughter sleeping in a carrier nearby. Even Marco had come, looking uncomfortable but pleased, and at the end of the aisle, waiting for me with eyes that held nothing but love and promise, stood Dante Castellano, no longer my fake fiancé, but about to become my real husband. As I walked toward him, I thought about the girl I'd been 8 months ago. Broken, invisible, convinced she'd never matter to anyone. That girl would never have believed this was possible. This happiness, this love, this life. But she'd been wrong. Derek had left me with nothing. He'd tried to erase me, to make me disappear. Instead, he'd set me on a path that led me here. To a man who saw my worth even when I couldn't. To a life I'd never dreamed possible. To a love that was fierce and protective and absolutely real. Dante took my hands when I reached him, and his smile was private, just for me. Ready, he whispered, for anything. I whispered back. As long as it's with you. The past was behind us. Derek in prison. The revenge complete. The debts all settled. And ahead of us stretched a future neither of us had planned, but both of us wanted desperately. As we said our vows, as Dante slipped a wedding band beside my engagement ring, as he kissed me in front of everyone who mattered, I realized something important. Sometimes the worst betrayal leads you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes losing everything means gaining something far more valuable. And sometimes The man who starts as your protector becomes the love of your life. My ex had left me with nothing, but in losing everything, I'd found the man who would give me the world. And that was worth every moment of pain it took to get here.